Hi, welcome to a quick video just to show you how you might use mole traps to catch moles in gardens. I was talking to someone recently who was really struggling, and I've had some success here, and I've got a couple of moles in the garden right now, and interestingly they're digging just near the surface so you can see where the run is, and I thought it'd be a really good opportunity to be able to show you how to set a mole trap, but also how you can see where the mole has gone. So just before we go and do that, one of the things is to just take a look at what we need to do this. So I've got a couple of tools here that I'll show you. Before we carry on though, just to say what I'm going to use is mole traps and a little bit of mouse poison that will kill moles. So if you're not a big fan of setting traps that actually kill animals, this is not the video for you, and I'm sorry. But I've tried with several routes to use humane traps for moles, and unfortunately it's not worked for me. So we'll go and take a look in a second. We'll have a look at where a mole run has gone, and we'll set some traps and see how we do. But just before we do that, what I've got down here is kind of what we need. So I've got a couple of knives, which I'll show you what we're going to use those for. I've got trowel to dig out. We need some gloves because we particularly want gloves that don't carry scent. So we ideally want gloves that have not got human scent on them, because we don't want to put human scent on the traps. And then what I tend to do when I'm setting a mole trap is I also, because I'm digging into the mole's tunnel, is I also tend to use a little bit of mouse bait and mouse poison, because it's buried under the surface and can't be got at by any other animals. So let's go and take a look, see what we can do, and I'll show you what the next step is. So what we can see here is a trap that I recently set, and this particular one did catch the mole. I've clearly removed that because I don't want to upset anybody. But just so you can see, when you get the little mole hills in your garden, this here was where the mole had actually created a small mole hill. But what you can see from this particular mole is he or she has been travelling along the surface. And so it's useful here because you can see that the mole came along here, back here, went up there, and then back along there, and then went that way. And then there's a trail going off. So this particular mole, the track is useful because often you can't see where the mole's gone. Often you just get a small mole hill and you can't see where the mole's gone. And when we put the trap in, so here's the trap, which you'll see shortly, what we've got to do is not put it where the mole hill is, but we've got to find where the tunnel is and put it in the tunnel. So this particular mole, I found where the tunnel was. The tunnel goes up there and down there. I put the trap in, and this particular one works and caught the mole. So we're just going to put that back in. I can flatten this all down, and I'll do that later, because I'm going to squash where the mole tunnel is, push it back down, because then if the mole this mole won't come back, but if another one comes this way, I need to be able to see whether the mole track or the mole hills have come up fresh. But that just helps to show that they don't go in a straight line, they go left and right and jag, so you need to find out where the actual path of the mole is. So this is where we're going to put a new trap, so I'm going to show you how to do it. But what I've got here is I've got a track of a mole. He or she has been coming down here, going round that way, coming back over there, back over there, and then there was a mole hill here. And then what you can see just about is there's a track that goes off that way. It only goes about that far, it doesn't go any further. Then there's another track that goes off down here, weaves around, and then comes to where I've put a trap down. And I'm going to lift this trap up in a second. Sorry, just get my shadow out of the way. But I suspect this one's not worked because I can see these other molehills, and then there's a track that goes off down there and further off down here, and I think that's new. So I don't think this particular trap has worked. So that's what I'm going to look at in a second. I'm going to pull the trap up. I'm not going to show you that particular bit just at the minute, just in case there is a mole on it. there's not, we're then going to relay the trap in this particular mole track. So I'll be back in a second when I've just checked this trap. So I took the trap up and I was right, there was no mole, but that's where the trap is now. But then the mole run comes down here, over there, back around there, and along here, and eventually, at the minute, it's stopping here. So this looks like it's one of the fresher parts of the track. Now again, remember what I said, often you can't actually see the track. What you would just see is some molehills dotted around. But in this particular case, we can see where the last bit was. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to use the tools that I showed you earlier, and I'm going to cut into this path, and then I'm going to put the new trap down. Okay, so this is where we put the gloves on. Remember what I said, try and avoid getting your own kind of scent on the gloves if you can. Sometimes you might have some manure or something else that you can kind of rub on there that just makes it get rid of any human scent. But here we can see the mole trap. This is where the little molehill was, and if we assume that we couldn't see this mole track, which is what normally happens, the reason for the knives is because we'd see this molehill but we wouldn't know which way the track went. So what you can do with a knife is just gently prod down around and see if you can find the mole run. So as you might imagine, at the minute I'm pushing this in, it's quite stiff. I can't feel a gap. But if I go in here, see how easy that is? So that would tell us which way the mole track was going. Now that looks simple, it's often not simple. You go round and you actually feel like you can't find where the mole run is. So sometimes what you have to do is take a guess, cut a bit of the grass away, a distance maybe a foot away from the molehill, and actually just start digging in, have a look. If you can't find the track, the run, put that back, cut another bit out. But usually if you're lucky, you can use a knife, just prod in and you'll find where it becomes free, like here, where there's no resistance, and you know that that's where the mole is. Then what's useful to have with the knife is to cut. So I'm going to just cut across the square turf. Grass there. That's it. And then we can just pull that out. And then if we do a little bit of digging down here, we should be able to find the hole. Now we're quite lucky, so we can see the holes there because we knew that the track went that way. And I can't yet see the hole here. That's there, so it's going that way. So we know it's going there and there. So I'm going to pull a bit of this soil out here. I know this is now the mole run, so we've interjected into the mole run. So the next step is we're going to put the trap in. These traps I find quite useful. You do have to be careful with your fingers, because if you let go of the trap, it's going to catch you. I got these off Amazon, they weren't very expensive, and they basically work by putting this metal plate in there. It holds the trap open, so the mole comes along, pushes through that, it sets the trap off. But when you're putting this in, you need to make sure you're doing it here, so your fingers are not coming in where the trap is, because these are quite sensitive and it's very easy to knock the trap off. So if I do it like this, if that trap closes, it won't catch my fingers. And then very simply, we're just going to put the trap in like that. So it's on the run. The mole will come along here, we'll re-dig out, because in a second we're going to fill this in. It will re-dig out, and as it re-digs out, it's going to break the trap and set the trap off. So the bit that I'm going to do now is we need to cover this again so it becomes dark. But this is quite stuffed together with grass, and it's going to make it difficult to seal this off. So I'm just going to pause for a second. I'm going to go and get some compost, come back, and then we'll fill this in. But also I'll show you what I'm going to do with the mouse poison. So a couple of seconds and I'll be back. Okay, so we've now got some compost, so we can just fill this hole back up, because this soil, like I say, is just a bit full of grass, so it's a bit matted, and we want just some loose soil that we can put in here like this, so that the trap will easily move, and also so that the mole can easily dig through. And then just to help make sure we've got no sunlight coming in, any loose soil that we've got can just be put on top. So there we go, we have our trap in. What you can see at the minute is that the trap arms are in that position, so if this trap goes off, they will have gone in and they'll spring out, so we can see if the trap is set up. So as you can see here with this other trap, they'd be that wide. Now I've not put the mouse poison in this time, but if I'd wanted to, and if you feel you want to try this, one of the options is just before you fill it in, drop a few grains of the mouse poison into the hole, then fill it in, so that then there's a second line of defence that potentially, if the mole doesn't set the trap off, the mole may the bait. You may not want to put bait in like that and just rely on the traps, which is fine. But I like to sometimes mix both, particularly if I've got a trap that's not getting set off, because the mole's clearly better than I am and is bypassing it. So there we go. So I've got another trap here. I'm going to go and set that one up now in another part of this particular mole run, just so I've got two traps down. But we will now see how we do. Thank you for listening.